Hello everybody, my name is Aaron Delp, Cloud Solutions Architect at SolidFire, and wanted to give a very quick summary of an announcement from the keynote session yesterday from SolidFire. Dave Wright, our CEO, announced something called SolidFire Agile Infrastructure, and what is that, and why did we feel it was important to bring this to market? That's what we want to talk about today. First of all, a lot of us come from a background of silos. And most people grew up as, I did compute, I did storage, I did networking. And that model proved very efficient for a long time. But at the end of the day, how do you move beyond that? And, one of my slides isn't, okay, that's fine. Slight mess up, keep going here. What's going on here is we are moving into an era where the workloads are changing. And because the workloads are changing, that infrastructure underneath it to support it is changing. Because at the end of the day, that infrastructure is there simply to support applications and workloads. And this shift in the industry and this trend has a lot of names. We refer to it as private cloud, IT as a service, infrastructure 2.0. But at the end of the day, this really is just the next generation of data center and data center infrastructure. And some basic tenets and characteristics of that next generation data center. How do you create an environment that is agile, that is very scalable and very predictable at the same time? And lastly, what you want to do is create an environment that is very automated at the same time. And we are really entering a whole new world of, because the applications are changing in a very fundamental way, the infrastructure has to change. And so we are moving from, for instance, a single tenant environment to multi-tenant environments. And in addition to that, putting multiple workloads within those tenants. And because of that, we are starting to share infrastructure and again, remove those silos and create scale out infrastructure. And the goal of all of that is, because at the end of the day, we have very physical infrastructure assets under that. How do you create an abstraction layer on top of that that turns those static physical resources into dynamic pools of infrastructure? Dynamic pools that you can actually take an amount of resources. I want to check out some compute, check out some storage, check out some networking, and present it for an application or a workload, use it for a certain amount of time, and then return it back to the pool when I'm finished with it. And that is an idea of really how do you take all of this and combine everything together. And the idea of convergence and converged infrastructure. We see a lot of converged infrastructure products that are out there today of taking everything, combining it together, and managing it all as one central bit of infrastructure. But at the same time, how do you take that and really kind of put it together with OpenStack and the OpenStack project and open source software in general, and creating this layer of your hardware assets and your virtualized assets, and then putting them up into OpenStack and open source software. And so what SolidFire has done is announced SolidFire Agile Infrastructure, or AI. SolidFire, along with Dell and Red Hat, have combined a package together, a reference architecture, if you will, that will allow you to stand up and create an OpenStack environment that is very turnkey and very agile at the same time. And so what we're looking at here is pre-validated converged infrastructure, but converged infrastructure not just to the hypervisor level, but to actually embrace OpenStack in that as well. And so as you can see here on this slide, we have the software infrastructure in that, as well as the networking, the compute, and of course SolidFire for storage. And nice features of this. This is all built on commodity hardware. It is all designed for scale out workloads. And those workloads are really your software dev, your QA testing kind of environments. How do you do web scale applications where that application requires that shrinking and growing of environment as needed? And that leads to some really nice operational benefits that plays well into this next generation data center. So First of all, it is very agile. You have those pools of resources. It is automated. So we are able to actually go from out of the box, bare metal, nothing on it, less than 30 minutes to actually provision all of the operating systems, and then less than 30 minutes to actually install and configure OpenStack. So we are able to go from bare metal to an OpenStack environment in around an hour. And in addition to that, we have scalability behind that and predictability behind that. How do you take these multiple applications, if you will, and multiple workloads and multiple tenants? How do you put them together in the same set of environment and not create a noisy neighbor, create one kind of environment where one person or one application could potentially impact others with that environment? And that's, SolidFire uses the concept of a guaranteed QoS, or quality of service, to maintain that. And lastly, how do we run all of this efficiently? Because there are a lot of moving parts here. When you take this entire infrastructure, to quote Jeremiah Dooley, who's sitting right over here next to me, infrastructure is boring. But at the same time, it's not very sexy, but it's complex, right? How do we actually take something that is boring and really make it much more efficient so that you don't have to deal with it as much anymore going forward? So, quick summary of it. SolidFire Agile Infrastructure, completely open architecture, no lock-in to compute, storage, or networking, but at the same time moving beyond the hypervisor and actually fully leveraging OpenStack and the OpenStack ecosystem over time. And I think that's the last slide. And yes, that's it. Thanks, guys.